Breaking Arsenal's final push for Julián Álvarez, the summer transfer window has exploded into life. Arsenal have re-entered the race for Julián Álvarez, and this time the situation is completely different. After weeks of refusing to discuss any deal, Atletico Madrid are now reportedly willing to negotiate with the Gunners as they look for a solution before the transfer deadline. But there is one enormous problem. Julián Álvarez is still believed to prefer Barcelona, making this one of the most dramatic transfer battles of the summer. Today we'll break down everything, why Atletico changed their position, Mikel Arteta's master plan, the possible transfer fee, Arsenal's tactical vision, and whether this blockbuster move can actually happen. Why Atletico Madrid changed everything. Just a few weeks ago, Atletico's message was simple: not for sale. Now reports in Spain claim Diego Simeone's club has performed a dramatic U-turn. Instead of blocking every approach, Atletico are prepared to open negotiations with Arsenal because they would much rather sell their Argentine superstar to England than strengthen Barcelona, one of their direct La Liga rivals. That is a huge shift. From Atletico's perspective, losing Álvarez is painful, but losing him to Barcelona could directly damage their title ambitions. Selling him abroad suddenly looks like the lesser of two evils. Arsenal never stop believing this isn't a new obsession. Arsenal have admired Julián Álvarez for a long time. Even before his move to Atletico Madrid, the Gunners monitored his development because Mikel Arteta believes he fits perfectly into Arsenal's aggressive, high-pressing football. Why does Arteta love him so much? Because Álvarez isn't just a striker. He can play as a central number 9, operate behind the striker as a second forward, drift into wide positions and press defenders relentlessly for 90 minutes. That versatility makes him one of the most complete forwards in world football, and Arsenal believe he could become the final piece of their Premier League title puzzle. Mikel Arteta's master plan, Arsenal fans. This is where the story becomes truly exciting. Mikel Arteta isn't chasing Julián Álvarez because he simply wants another striker. He's chasing him because he believes the Argentine could completely transform Arsenal's attack and finally deliver the Premier League title. For months, Arteta has kept Álvarez high on Arsenal's shortlist. Even while the club explored other attacking targets, the World Cup winner remained one of the manager's dream signings. Why Arteta wants Álvarez? Julián Álvarez isn't a traditional centre-forward. He brings qualities that very few strikers in world football possess. Clinical finishing inside the penalty area. Relentless pressing from the first minute to the last. Intelligent movement shoot to the last. Intelligent movement between defenders. Creativity to link midfield with attack. The versatility to play as a number 9 second striker or false 9. That's exactly the profile Arteta believes Arsenal need. Imagine Martin Odegaard threading passes through the middle, Bukayo Saka stretching defenders on the right, Gabriel Martinelli attacking from the left, and Álvarez constantly creating space while pressing opponents into mistakes. It isn't just about scoring goals, it's about making Arsenal's entire attack more dangerous. Instant Premier League impact. Another major advantage is his experience in England. Álvarez already understands the speed, intensity and physical demands of the Premier League. Arsenal believe he could arrive and make an immediate impact without needing months to adapt. The biggest obstacle. But this transfer will not come cheap. Atletico Madrid are prepared to negotiate, yet they want a fee worthy of one of Europe's elite forwards. Arsenal know that if they're serious, they'll need to submit one of the biggest offers in the club's history. The question is no longer whether Arsenal admire Julián Álvarez. The real question is whether they're ready to pay the price to bring him back to the Premier League. Barcelona versus Arsenal. The decision that could change everything. Just when Arsenal thought the door was opening, another giant entered the story. Barcelona remain the club most closely linked with Julián Álvarez, and reports suggest the Argentine has always been attracted by the idea of becoming Hansi Flick's new number 9. That creates a fascinating battle. Arsenal can offer the Premier League, Mikel Arteta's ambitious project, and a team built to compete for every major trophy. Barcelona can offer the prestige of the Camp Nou, the chance to become the face of a new generation, and the opportunity to lead one of football's biggest clubs. For Atletico Madrid, however, the situation is completely different. Selling Álvarez to a direct La Liga rival is the last thing Diego Simeone wants. That's why Arsenal have suddenly become a far more attractive negotiating partner. What happens next? The final weeks of the transfer window will be decisive. If Arsenal submit an official bid, Atletico are expected to listen. But money alone may not be enough. The biggest challenge is convincing Julián Álvarez that North London, not Barcelona, is the perfect place for the next chapter of his career. And if that happens, Arsenal could complete one of the biggest transfers of the entire summer. The mega deal that could break Arsenal's record. Now let's talk about the money, because this is where the transfer becomes incredibly complicated. Atletico Madrid know they are negotiating over one of the world's elite forwards. Julián Álvarez is a World Cup winner, an established international star, and one of the most complete attackers in Europe. That means Arsenal cannot expect a bargain. Sources close to the negotiations suggest Atletico would only seriously consider a massive proposal, with the overall package expected to exceed €100 million for Arsenal. This would be one of the biggest investments in club history. Why Arsenal are ready to spend the Gunners? Believe elite players win elite trophies. After coming so close in recent seasons, the club wants a striker capable of scoring against Manchester City, Liverpool, Real Madrid, and every top side in Europe. Arteta sees Álvarez as a player who delivers in the biggest moments, not just through goals, but through leadership, relentless work rate, and championship mentality. The final negotiation, Arsenal's sporting directors are now carefully evaluating whether to launch their official offer before the transfer deadline. If the bid arrives, Atletico are expected to negotiate, but agreeing a fee is only half the battle. The player's final decision could determine one of the biggest transfers of the summer. Why Atletico prefer Arsenal over Barcelona? Here's the twist that has completely changed this transfer saga. Atletico Madrid are no longer treating every club the same. While they're prepared to negotiate with Arsenal, they're far more reluctant to strengthen one of their biggest domestic rivals in Barcelona. From Atletico's perspective, losing Julián Álvarez is difficult, but losing him to Barcelona could directly damage their chances of winning La Liga. That's why Arsenal have suddenly become the preferred negotiating partner. Arsenal's golden opportunity. This is the opening Mikel Arteta has been waiting for. If Arsenal move quickly with an official proposal, they could become the first club to enter serious negotiations with Atletico before the transfer window closes. The Gunners believe their ambitious project, Champions League football, and Arteta's vision give them a genuine chance of convincing the Argentine striker. The clock is ticking. Every day brings more pressure. Arsenal must decide whether to break their transfer record. Atletico must choose the right financial package. And Julián Álvarez must make the biggest decision of his career. The next few days could change everything. And the final chapter of this blockbuster story is still to come. The final verdict. Will Arsenal complete the deal? Arsenal fans, we've reached the biggest question of this transfer saga. Will Julián Álvarez wear the famous red and white shirt this season? Right now, the answer depends on three decisive factors. First, Arsenal must submit an official bid that convinces Atletico Madrid to negotiate seriously. Second, Atletico have to accept that selling their star striker is the right financial decision before the transfer deadline. And finally, Julián Álvarez must choose between returning to the Premier League with Arsenal or waiting for Barcelona's long-standing interest to become concrete. Mikel Arteta believes Álvarez is the missing piece capable of taking Arsenal to another level. His pressing, movement, creativity and elite finishing perfectly match the football Arsenal want to play. This is why the club are carefully preparing what could become one of the biggest offers in their history. The next few days will be crucial. One phone call, one official proposal and one decision from Julián Álvarez could completely reshape Arsenal's season. If this blockbuster move happens, it won't just be another signing. It could become the transfer that defines the 2026 to 27 campaign. Stay tuned because this story is far from over.